Leo, let's not waste any time because this moment, right now, could be the most important one you've stepped into in a very long time. Something big is happening. And yes, it's real. This is your biggest win ever. You didn't click on this video by accident. You've been guided here for a reason. Life might have tested your patience, stretched your limits, or pushed you to the edge, but now, something is shifting. You're not just about to receive a reward. You're standing on the edge of a breakthrough that has the power to change your entire trajectory. Let me ask you something, have you felt it too? That strange sense that something's building behind the scenes? That you're so close, but can't quite see it yet? That maybe, just maybe, the delay wasn't denial but divine alignment? Because Leo, you weren't waiting. You were preparing. And now, it's time. The universe is finally ready to return everything you poured out during the dry seasons, the effort, the hope, the resilience. All those moments when you stayed strong, even when no one was watching. All those decisions you made to take the high road, to walk in integrity, to stay true to yourself even when it cost you comfort, connection, or control. That wasn't wasted. None of it. The energy you've been putting out, it's been echoing back. And what's about to return to you will feel nothing short of miraculous. Here at Eternal Mindfulness, we don't sugarcoat, and we don't deal in vague hype. We honor timing, alignment, and truth. And right now, your chart, your energy, and your soul path are all pointing in the same direction, forward. Upward. Into a version of your life that not only makes sense but feels earned. Astrologically, this is no coincidence. With Venus having just passed through Leo, it has left you with a clearer sense of your self-worth, your value, and what you no longer have to shrink for. And now, with a fire sign new moon approaching and Jupiter trining your sun, your momentum is being lit from within and supported from above. This isn't about potential anymore. It's about movement. This message is for the Leo who's done pretending they're fine playing small. For the Leo who knows their strength but has been wondering when life would finally give them a sign that they're seen, that they're supported, and that their time is coming. Well, this is it. If you've been seeing signs like repeating numbers, vivid dreams, moments of deep inner knowing, consider this your confirmation. You're not going crazy. You're waking up. And before we dive into your personal energy map, your tarot, your timing, your turning point, take a deep breath with me. Let it land. Because this isn't just a horoscope. This is a spiritual alignment check. And you've just passed through the gate. Now, if you feel this message stirring something inside you, let me know. Share it in the comments. What brought you here today? What are you claiming? Because when you speak it, you anchor it. And that's how transformation starts. Thank you for being here. Your presence is felt. Your journey is seen. And I'm honored to walk this part of the path with you. Stay with me until the end, because what the universe is about to show you might just leave you speechless. Let's begin. Leo, I know you've been carrying more than what meets the eye. You've walked through days that drained your fire and nights that tested your roar. You've held yourself together when others thought you were fine, but deep down, something in you has been cracking quietly, like an old foundation shifting under the weight of too many expectations. If you're honest, there were moments when you weren't sure how much longer you could hold it all, your strength, your pride, your role as the one who keeps it together. And yet, here you are. That alone speaks volumes. This part of your journey, the part you probably don't talk about much, is what the Ten of Wands represents. Not in a dramatic, performative way, but in the honest heaviness that accumulates when you say yes too often, when you're the reliable one, the strong one, the one who gets things done even when your own tank is empty. That weight doesn't just come from doing too much. Sometimes it comes from being too much for too many people while forgetting to just be for yourself. And this is where the energy shifts. Astrologically, Venus has recently completed her passage through Leo. Her exit might have felt subtle, but it left behind an energetic echo, a spiritual vacuum, if you will, that pulls out whatever doesn't serve your worth anymore. Her presence helped you see yourself more clearly. Her absence now challenges you to treat yourself like you matter. This is your moment to clean house, energetically speaking, to clear out old beliefs, old dynamics, old emotional debts that have expired. The truth is, Leo, not everything you've been carrying belongs to you. And not everything you've been carrying is even needed anymore. Some burdens are inherited. Some are picked up out of guilt or loyalty. Some were only meant to be temporary, but became permanent because no one else stepped in. That's why now, with the Wheel of Fortune showing up in your spread, the message is clear: the cycle is closing. The karmic rotation is complete. What comes next is not just change its alignment. The wheel is turning not to punish or test you, but to place you exactly where you were always meant to be. And the timing? Divine. But there's something important I've learned through years of reading energy, studying charts, and listening to the quiet pain behind powerful eyes like yours. Change doesn't always feel like freedom at first. Sometimes it feels like losing control. Like falling apart. Like finally putting down what was never yours and realizing your arms don't know what to do when they're not busy holding everything together. So I want to ask you gently, are you still holding on to something that no longer serves your light? A commitment? A role? A version of yourself that you've outgrown but feel responsible for maintaining? If you feel a knot in your chest just reading that, it's your intuition speaking. It's your energy body saying, it's time. You don't have to carry the full load anymore. You're not being selfish for laying something down. You're being wise. And wise Leos change the world not by carrying it, but by being lit from within. If you're ready to make space for your next chapter, here's something simple but powerful you can do. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 things, just 3 that you know are weighing you down. Not the things that feel hard today, but the ones that have been silently draining you for weeks, months, maybe even years. Be honest. Be raw. Then, fold it up. And whether you burn it, bury it, or simply throw it away, release it with intention. Let the wheel turn. Because the truth is, God doesn't ask us to be everything to everyone. He asks us to be faithful stewards of our light. And your light, Leo, shines brightest when it's not burdened by proving anything to anyone. You were never meant to be hidden beneath pressure. You were born to walk boldly, carrying only what's yours, and leaving behind what was never aligned with your becoming. This isn't just about letting go. It's about making room for your biggest win yet. Stay with me. What comes next will explain exactly why all this release was necessary and why the universe never truly forgot you. You know, Leo, sometimes the real turning point doesn't look like fireworks or loud announcements. Sometimes it's a quiet shift, like a soft wind blowing through the window of your soul, reminding you that something new is on its way. And if you've been feeling that tug recently, that sense that you're ready for more but can't quite see the path yet, you're not imagining it. You're entering a chapter of rebirth. The energy surrounding you right now feels a lot like the Empress walking hand in hand with the Page of Pentacles. One speaks of fertile ground, of things ready to bloom. The other? It's the curious student, the one who's just stumbled upon a seed and dares to believe that if it's nurtured with the right intention, it could grow into something lasting. That's where you are. This is your fertile season emotionally, creatively, maybe even financially. But like any garden, it needs your hands. Not your control. Your presence. It's important to recognize that rebirth doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means returning to the truest part of you, the version that existed before disappointment made you shrink. You don't have to rewrite who you are to begin again. You only have to give yourself permission to grow past what once limited you. Right now, astrologically, you're in a rare alignment. Jupiter is forming a trine with your Sun, and that's no small thing. This is divine timing disguised as luck. It's not luck, though. It's the result of how deeply you've been doing the inner work even when no one saw it. Jupiter doesn't reward noise. It rewards faith. It expands what already has roots. And if you've been planting seeds, new ideas, small steps toward a dream, even just a decision to try again, this is when they begin to sprout. I've seen this energy show up in people who finally get the job offer they thought had passed them by. Or when someone hears back from a contact who ghosted them months ago, only now they're ready to collaborate. That's the magic of cycles. What feels like rejection today can come back as redirection tomorrow, but only if you're still open. So if you've had that urge to double-check an old email thread, scroll back through your DMs, revisit a project you shelved, don't ignore it. That nudge might just be divine timing tapping on your shoulder. Let's talk about the colors that are showing up around you. Creamy gold and lush green. They're not just beautiful. They're symbolic. Gold is your power reclaiming itself, not in a loud, flashy way, but in that quiet confidence that says, I don't have to prove it. I just have to embody it. And green? That's healing. That's prosperity. That's your heart remembering that it's safe to hope again. This is a good time to incorporate morning affirmations into your routine, ones that don't hype you up artificially, but bring you back into harmony with what's already yours. Try this: I don't have to chase. I just align. That simple shift changes everything. It pulls your energy inward, centers your intention, and calls in what's meant for you. I'm not telling you to expect miracles overnight. But I am telling you this: if you treat this season like sacred ground, it will give back to you in ways that go beyond logic. All you need to do now is stay open, stay present, and stay aligned. What's coming is already en route. And it's looking for someone who's ready, not perfect, not polished, just willing to receive. So if something inside you is whispering, it's time, listen to that voice. That's not fear. That's readiness. This part of your journey isn't about proving your worth. It's about accepting your invitation. And you, Leo, were always on the guest list. Sometimes, the real power isn't in how fast you move, but in how deeply you root yourself before you rise. If you've been feeling like your progress is slower than it should be, or wondering why you haven't arrived yet when you've been putting in the work, pause for a second. Because this chapter isn't about racing ahead. It's about building something that won't collapse the moment you exhale. And that's the kind of success that lasts. In your energy right now, the Knight of Pentacles walks beside you. He's not flashy. He's not the fastest. But he's the one who finishes the journey with something solid in his hands. He doesn't just chase dreams, she cultivates them. And maybe that's what you've been doing all along, even if it didn't look glamorous from the outside. You've been laying foundations, planting intention in quiet corners of your life, even when others couldn't see it. That counts. Now combine that with the Seven of Cups. This card often gets misunderstood. People think it's about confusion, distraction, too many choices. But it's also about vision, possibility, potential. It shows up when your soul is brainstorming with the universe. And yes, it can feel overwhelming. But it also means that you're not stuck, you're standing at a doorway with multiple paths in front of you. The key? Don't rush to choose. Instead, reconnect with what actually matters to you now. Because not every cup is meant for this version of you. Some dreams were designed for an older self. Others are waiting for your courage to catch up. When I see this pairing, Knight of Pentacles with Seven of Cups, it tells me you've been dreaming, maybe even doubting, but you haven't stopped moving. And even if it feels like you've been moving through molasses, you haven't lost momentum. You've been waiting for the right timing. Just like a lion doesn't pounce the second it sees movement. It waits. It watches. It knows instinctively when to act. That's not hesitation. That's wisdom. In numerology, the number 7 is the number of deep insight and divine timing. It asks you to trust your intuition, especially when logic is pulling you in a different direction. And 13? Contrary to popular belief, it's not a bad omen. It's a powerful number of rebirth. It marks the end of something artificial so something authentic can begin. When these two numbers show up in your orbit, you're being asked to release old timelines and trust a rhythm that's not defined by the world's rush. But none of this means sit back and wait passively. This is the season to commit not to outcomes, but to process. To consistent action, even when it feels slow or invisible. If there's a dream you've been keeping on the shelf, now's the time to take it down and dust it off. Block out 25 or 30 minutes a day. That's it. No pressure to complete or conquer, just show up for it. Chip away. And if motivation's hard to summon in the morning, try something as simple as tuning into 432 Hz music. This frequency has a grounding, creativity opening effect on the brain. Let it be the soundtrack to your first cup of coffee, or your morning pages, or that project you promised yourself you'd get back to someday. I know it's hard to believe sometimes, but slow doesn't mean stuck. Delayed doesn't mean denied. And quiet progress is still progress. What you're building now may not be obvious to the world, but it's growing. And when it's ready, it won't just arrive. It will arrive strong. So ask yourself honestly, do you trust that you're still worthy of good things, even if they take time to reach you? Can you stay the course, even if others seem to be running ahead? Because the ones who arrive last often arrive whole. And Leo, that's exactly what you're becoming. whole, ready, unshakable. There's a quiet kind of courage that no one talks about. The kind that shows up when you realize something you've outgrown is still holding space in your life, not because it fits, but because it's familiar. That's where many Leos are standing right now. Not at the edge of chaos, but at the edge of choice. A choice to release what no longer reflects who they're becoming. The King of Wands paired with the Death card paints this moment perfectly. One symbolizes confidence, clarity, and direction, the part of you that knows exactly where you're going. The other? It's the transformation itself. Not death in a literal sense, but in the quiet undoing of attachments that were never meant to last. When these two archetypes walk together, it's not just about endings. It's about honoring what needs to fall away so that leadership, purpose, and personal power can finally rise. You might be facing the slow disintegration of a relationship, a work situation, or even a version of yourself that you've carried for too long. Maybe it once felt safe. Maybe it helped you survive a certain season. But now, it's starting to feel heavy. Misaligned. Like a coat that used to keep you warm, but now just weighs you down. This isn't failure. This is evolution. Astrologically, the new moon landing in a fire sign is your signal. Fire moons don't whisper, they ignite. They bring clarity, yes, but they also stir a hunger. A desire to break free from what feels stagnant. The fire energy is pushing you not just to let go, but to reclaim the part of you that's been dimmed to fit in, to please others, or to stay within someone else's comfort zone. I've worked with countless people during transitions like this. And what I've seen again and again is that real change doesn't always begin with action. It begins with honesty. With the question we often avoid asking because we're scared of the answer, what part of me has already died, but I keep trying to revive out of habit? Sometimes we stay because we've invested so much time. Other times, we fear what people will think if we walk away. But holding on to something that's no longer true for you doesn't make you loyal, it keeps you small. Growth asks you to be loyal to yourself first. There's a difference between burning bridges out of anger and choosing distance out of wisdom. What's being asked of you now is the second. To recognize when a chapter has closed, even if there's no dramatic ending. Even if no one else understands. To acknowledge when it's time to bless a connection for what it was and then let it go. This might not mean a sudden goodbye. Sometimes it's simply a shift in your energy. A quiet decision to stop engaging in conversations that leave you doubting yourself. To unfollow the voices that feed your insecurity more than your intuition. To stop over-explaining your boundaries to people who never respected them in the first place. If you're unsure where to begin, start with this. Identify 3 things: people, habits, or messages you engage with regularly that make you feel smaller, drained, or not enough. Then, make a conscious decision to step away. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Just intentional. Make room for something new. Because like the phoenix, you're not burning down. You're burning through. And on the other side of this fire, there's a version of you that's clearer, lighter, and more aligned than ever before. You don't owe the old you an explanation. You owe the new you a chance. So if something's tugging at you to release, to shift, to move on, it's not fear talking. It's truth. And the bravest thing you can do right now is listen. Victory doesn't always feel loud at first. Sometimes, it's soft. Quiet. A shift in the atmosphere around you that only you can sense, like a gentle click of something locking into place after years of feeling misaligned. Leo, what you're stepping into now is not a fluke. It's not random luck. This is a chapter you've earned through every silent moment of perseverance. Through every time you stood tall when no one was cheering. Through all those inner battles you never posted about, but fought anyway. This is your victory season and the gate has already opened. You just need to walk through it. I see the Ace of Wands in your energy now. That card is not subtle. It represents raw fire, new vitality, and divine inspiration. And for someone like you, who was born under a fire sign, it's like coming home to yourself. You may have spent the last few months or even years feeling like your inner flame was flickering, barely enough to keep things moving. But that spark is returning now, not just to survive, but to ignite. You're not starting over. You're starting higher. And then there's the Six of Wands. This isn't about ego or showmanship. It's about quiet recognition, the kind that starts from within. The kind where you finally realize, I've made it through something that could have broken me. You may not have the trophy, the applause, or the headlines. But the universe has already placed the crown. You've crossed a spiritual finish line that only your soul could see. And no one can take that from you. I want to pause here and say this clearly, because it matters. You don't need external permission to receive what's coming. If you've been waiting for a sign that it's okay to enjoy your success, to believe good things are really for you, this is it. You don't have to explain how hard it was. You don't need to shrink yourself to make others comfortable with your growth. What's flowing into your life now is not compensation. It's confirmation. But with all breakthroughs, comes energy. And energy, especially when it's new and powerful, can feel overwhelming if you're not grounded. That's why I encourage you to pay attention to your physical vessel during this time. Your body is your translator. It'll tell you when you're overloaded or disconnected. A simple adjustment like reducing caffeine for just 3 days can open space for clarity. You'd be surprised how much calmer your intuition becomes when you're not overstimulated. Try replacing your coffee with peppermint tea in the morning. Then take 10 minutes, not 30, not an hour, just 10 to sit quietly. Let your breath find its rhythm. Let your nervous system soften. These small rituals act like spiritual seatbelts when your life begins to accelerate. They don't slow you down. They steady you, so you don't miss the beauty of what's arriving. And it is arriving. Opportunities. Invitations. Breakthroughs. Conversations that shift everything. You won't need to chase them down. They're already moving toward you. You just need to be awake enough to say yes when they knock. Not out of desperation, but from a deep place of knowing, this is for me. This is my time. This is what all the waiting was for. If this part of the message speaks to something deep in you, take a moment now and ground it. In energy work, what we speak, we anchor. So write it, declare it, let it echo. Say it out loud or in the comments, I'm ready to receive my victory. Let it be more than words, let it be a declaration your future self can look back on and say, that was the moment everything changed. Because Leo, you're not asking for a crown anymore. You're wearing it. Of all the seasons you've been through, Leo, this one feels different and you can sense it, can't you? Not just because the signs are louder or the change is more visible, but because you are different now. The version of you standing here today is no longer surviving the weight of what was. You're beginning to remember what it feels like to rise, not because you have to, but because you can. You've carried what needed to be carried. You've endured more than most will ever see. And still, you chose to show up, to hold on, to grow, to believe that something greater was waiting beyond the noise, the delays, and the doubt. And now, the door that once seemed so far away is wide open. What you've been preparing for quietly, patiently, consistently is finally within reach. But here's the part many forget: you still have to walk through it. This next chapter isn't something you earn through perfection. It unfolds when you say yes to your own becoming. That means releasing what no longer fits, honoring what you've already overcome, and letting go of the need for external validation. Remember the Ten of Wands and Death. Those moments weren't setbacks. They were sacred closures. Necessary endings that made space for the Empress, the Page of Pentacles, the Ace of Wands. Your rebirth isn't something that happened to you. It's something you chose. So let me ask you, are you ready to choose again, but this time with clarity? With wholeness? With the confidence of someone who no longer needs to chase, because they've finally remembered they're the source? What would happen if you gave yourself full permission to live the life you've been envisioning in private? What could open up if you stopped asking for signs and started acting like you are the sign? And perhaps most importantly, can you trust that what's unfolding for you now is not temporary, not a tease, but a direct response to everything you've healed, everything you've held, and everything you've hoped for? The truth is, I'm not here to predict your future. I'm here to remind you, you're the one writing it. You've already begun. Every time you chose faith over fear, boundaries over burnout, truth over comfort, you shifted your path. Every small action you took from a place of love rather than lack has led you here. And now, the energy is ready to respond. But it needs your participation. Not as someone waiting to be chosen, but as someone who's finally ready to choose themselves. So I invite you to do something simple but powerful. Anchor this energy. Let it land. If something I've said today struck a chord, if you feel even a spark of recognition in your heart, comment below and claim it. Let your energy meet the energy that's been trying to find you. Say it clearly: I'm ready to receive what's meant for me. Because you are. Thank you for spending this time with me here on Eternal Mindfulness. Your presence here matters, your light matters. Every like, every comment, every moment you choose to engage with these messages brings you one step deeper into alignment with your highest self. Your support breathes life into this space, and together, we're creating something sacred. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Not just so you don't miss what's coming next, but because you deserve to stay in spaces that remind you of who you truly are. Until next time, stay open, stay grounded, and never forget, your destiny isn't waiting for permission, it's waiting for you.